Hello guys, I hope you are doing good. As I continue to review cars from a part of the world which is unfamiliar and unknown to you, today I have decided to talk about a brand which is indeed familiar to you, that is Renault. Renault has had a presence in Iran since the early 20th century. The first Renault car entered Iranian roads. I guess there were no roads back then, but it was in the year 1918. Fast forward to 1970s, Renault started to locally assemble Renault 5.
Nous, la Renault 5, on s'amuse bien avec. On l'appelle le car. En France, les Renault 5 sont plus sages. Et elles sont 8.
In 1990s, Renault came back to the market with Renault 21, aiming to compete with Peugeot 405.
Bonjour, monsieur. Dites-moi, elle accélère plutôt gentiment, votre voiture?
Bien sûr, c'est la Renault 21 de litre turbo.
Ah, bien sûr.
175 chevaux. Tout est géré par l'électronique.
Freinage ABS, bien sûr.
Bien sûr.
Bonne route.
Renault 21 de litre turbo. Le défi.
Eventually, they lost the competition, mostly because Renault 21 was not able to gain attraction. 4 years later, the car was completely pulled out of the market due to the shortage of spare parts. So here is the interesting part. Around the year 2000, a subsidiary of Saipa, which is called Pars Khodro or Pars Car Company, purchased the full production line of Renault 5. They signed a development and renovation agreement with Renault, and they officially became a strategic partner to this company. By then, Paycon was completely out of the market, and Pride was the only cheap and economical car available. So Pars Khodro decided to roll their dice. They revived the classic Renault 5, gave it a few updates, and relaunched it under a new name, which was Renault PK. As the car is rare to find in the streets, I searched online for the people who want to sell their cars. Fortunately, I found a few. Around 25 years ago, adding plastic fender covers was a bold design move. Interestingly, these were not used just for style. The company, in order to get more attention from the people and to decrease the design expenditure, used, or I better say, borrowed many parts and components from Kia Pride. Among them were the engine, axle, and many other connected parts. After assembling the parts, they faced a problem. The front axle was longer than required, so the wheels stuck out past the fenders. To fix this, they added the plastic covers essentially to hide a design flaw. When I wanted to pop the hood open, I did not know that I should do it from the other way. And the guy looked through my soul as if you don't know shit. The classic Renault 5 engine was placed vertically, but Pars Car Company placed it horizontally. As I said, under the hood, the PK used the same engine as Pride. The early models came with a carbureted engine, which was later upgraded to an injection system. Around 2004, after about 3 years, a facelift version of the PK was released. I found one of them, but the owner was not cooperative. He did not want to bring the car out, so we could not go for a ride. I could not even start the engine because the battery was not connected. The way he was acting, I guess he will sell the car in the next 10 years. Anyways, around 2004, after about 3 years that the car was in the market, Pars Car Company released a facelift. This car is actually the facelift of Renault PK. Front and rear lights were changed, the plastic parts on the fenders were removed, and instead they curved out the fenders. And overall the car looked more refined. The interior of the Iranian Renault was very different from the original Renault 5, although still a bit boring. That said, if you compared it to its main competitor, which was Pride, you really could not complain too much. One of the biggest disadvantages of the car, considering the hot summers in Iran, was that in the beginning of the production, the car did not have an air condition. However, after a while, the company added this feature. I took a very quick ride with the first car. So here is the story final turn. About 7 years after the start of production, PK was pulled out of the production line. The reason? Well, despite its limitation, the car was cheap. It was just around 6,000 US dollars, and you could consider it as a threat to the Pride sale, which was around 7,000 US dollars. So PK was cannibalizing the sale of Pride, which is probably the reason they pulled it out of the production line. However, they officially announced that the reason behind this stop was related to safety standards. To this day, still some people question if the real motivation was safety standards or not. Before I started writing my script for Renault PK, I was actually writing about Renault Logan. Then I realized it is not possible to give you a review of Renault Logan without talking about the early presence of Renault in Iran. So I decided to talk about PK first. Even though the production of PK ended more than 20 years ago, I felt a need to talk about PK before giving an insight on Renault Logan. So stay tuned. Soon I will talk about Renault Logan. Oh, and one more thing, please do accept my apology if any French speaking person watches this video by chance. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the brand name Renault right or wrong. This is what Google suggested. So